call this meeting to order for Monday, June 23rd, this joint meeting to order for Monday, 2023. Will the city call the roll, please, for the city?
Mayor Susan Payne.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Sharon McDonald.
Here.
Commissioner Crystal Guthrie.
Here.
Commissioner Stephen Burnett. Commissioner Warren Robinson is not here. Commissioner Josh Reardon.
Here.
Commissioner Mark Tapley. Here. Madam Mayor, we have a quorum for the city.
Thank you.
Commissioner McCourt. Here. Commissioner Matherly.
Here.
Commissioner Barella.
Here. All right, we're going to start with the invocation. I'll go ahead and do the invocation and the pledge from Commissioner Tapley. Lord Jesus, we thank you so much for this time, Lord. We thank you for another opportunity that we can come out, Lord, and just discuss our community and the things that are going on. Lord, we thank you for those in attendance tonight. Lord, I ask you to bless each and every one of them. Lord, I pray that this meeting would be productive, Lord, that you would give us ears to hear, Lord, and open minds. And we ask, Lord, that you would just lead us and guide us and direct us in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, we're going to move on to the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
A motion from Mayor Pro Tem McDonald from the city. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
A second from Chairman Marquardt. Is that what they
It's a
call you?
mouthful.
Sorry. From the county. Is it? I'm used to having my thing up there. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? I apologize, we have a little thing that we vote on at our commission meetings, and I'm kind of used to that, oddly enough. But anyway, all right. We're going to move on to public comment. I have 9 people signed up for public comment. We are doing public comment at the beginning. You will each have 3 minutes. I do have to limit you to that 3 minutes. So we will start with, is it Josiah, is it Vesey? Vesey? Are you going to keep track of the time? Okay.
And is this, okay, it's working. All right, howdy y'all, my name is Josiah Vesey. I'm a communications officer at the 911 Center, Taberta. I'm here today to talk a little bit about what it is that we do. A lot of people call us telecommunicators, which makes me think of the people that call me and ask me about my car's extended warranty. A lot of people call us dispatchers, which is a big part of what we do, but there's a lot more to it than that, and it's not comparable to dispatching a bus or dispatching a taxi cab. It is a life or death job that we have. The other month, a few months ago, I had a caller that called in on 911 saying that her mother was unconscious and unable to breathe. She didn't know how to do CPR. She was crying on the phone. I was able to give her the instructions that she needed in order to perform CPR, and we were able to save that patient. There has been a monumental difference in how the city government and the county government have treated us and our agency. In April, the city commission held a meeting where numerous things were said negatively about us and the agency that we work for. Many of those things were not true. Nobody reached out to us to ask us our opinion, to try to get our side of the story. Nobody reached out to us and tried to hear what we had to say. The city didn't even try to be fair to us, quite frankly, and that's disappointing to me. I think that the city's decision ultimately would have been very different if they'd come into our center, seen what we did, and formulated an opinion afterwards. Taberta's administration and leadership have done an excellent job, and I stand behind them 100%. I'm glad to be here today speaking on behalf of them and on behalf of the people that work at the 911 Center every day, working very hard to keep this county safe. I hope that the city will take a look at, and they've already made their decision, which is fine, but I hope that they'll take a look at what went wrong here with the next dispatch center and take that into account as a learning opportunity moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Christine Padilla.
My name is Christine Padilla, and I proudly work with our county's 911 center for nearly 9 years. Before that, I worked at MIRVDA in Doña Ana County for approximately 25 years, where I was part of that consolidation when it first happened, the first in the state of New Mexico. I'm here today to share just a few words about the remarkable transformation our center has undergone under the leadership of our current director, John Barney, who joined us about 2 years ago. When I first began working here, the center was functioning, but barely keeping pace with the growing demands of modern emergency services. The technology we relied on was outdated and limited. Our ability to dispatch units quickly and efficiently was hampered by tools that frankly belonged in another era. We didn't use headsets, which was astounding to me. Then John came aboard. From day one, he brought a clear vision and a deep understanding of how modern technology could drastically improve both our internal operations and, more importantly, the public safety outcomes for our community. Under his leadership, we have seen impressive overhaul of our systems. He has brought in cutting-edge technology, tools that give our dispatchers real-time data, enhance communications with first responders, and shorten the time it takes to get people the help that's needed. I want to address something important. Recently, a few former employees have shared misinformation about our center, largely because they were unhappy with scheduling changes that didn't go their way. While that's unfortunate, it's not uncommon during times of meaningful progress and change. What I've seen firsthand is a leader who listens, involves his team, and makes decisions based on fairness, safety, and the greater good for the center and the public we serve. His efforts have not only improved our efficiency, but have also directly impacted lives, making sure help arrives faster, more accurately, and with better coordination than ever before. Thank you.
Okay. Audrey Hahn.
Good evening, Commissioners. I've been a 911 dispatcher for 7 years. I started at the ESO and continued through the consolidation into Taberta. I've served as a communications training officer since the merge and as a floor supervisor for a little over a year now. Due to my position, I've tried to stay neutral throughout the ongoing conflict between the city and the county. But with the growing tension, I can no longer remain silent. I've submitted a detailed letter to both commissions as well as the Taberta Board, but I want to highlight a few key concerns tonight. First is treatment. Since the consolidation, I have witnessed and personally experienced repeated unprofessional behavior from APD personnel. Dispatchers have been cursed at and called names over the radio and the phone. And there have been instances where PD officers have blamed confusion or errors on the fact that the dispatcher came from this county and does not know what they are doing. This undermines our professionalism and suggests a lack of capability on our part. This behavior is divisive and demoralizing. If this happened with SO staff, it would be corrected. When it comes from APD, it is ignored and often laughed at. Additionally, there's a growing pattern of APD issuing directives to their officers that contradict those put in place by Taberta and the board, further complicating our ability to operate a unified center. Second is accountability. Every workplace has policies. When somebody repeatedly violates attendance policies, fails to meet job expectations, and ignores their job duties, consequences follow, including termination. We cannot create an environment where expectations are bent for individuals at the expense of the team or the mission. This is not sustainable or professional. Third is technology. With consolidation came an influx of technology. As you've heard here, it's helped us for the most part. Much of it was brought in at the request of agencies, primarily PD, even when the technology was redundant or not aligned with dispatch functions. These additions have created more complexity and a demand on time with little operational benefit to us. Lastly, the division. We've heard comments suggesting that they made no effort to understand how we operate. It's a clear indication of the division that persists between the city and the county. This us versus them mindset is embedded from the floor level all the way up through administration. Until we can address and eliminate this division, the two entities cannot truly coexist within a single dispatch center. Without the unity and mutual respect, we will continue to repeat the cycle of dysfunction. Thank you.
The last name is, I think it's Finnegan? Is it Michaela? Okay, I just wanted to make sure, I'm sorry.
It's like I've spoken in front of you guys before.
You have, yes.
Thank you. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for letting me speak this evening. I don't currently feel the need at this time to address the previous speeches given by current Taberta employees. You guys have all seen the evidence of the issues firsthand on multiple occasions, so you know how bad it is out there despite what they're saying. So I'd like to take this time instead to thank the City Commission and apologize for not getting the opportunity to do so sooner after the last meeting I spoke at in April. I want to publicly thank you for listening to your former dispatchers, your police officers, your firefighters, and your citizens when it comes to the massive issues with consolidated dispatch. You understood the facts and made the right decision to stop the indiscriminate squandering of city taxpayer dollars with no city oversight. Your diligence to the job you were elected to do is much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Gilbert, is it Garcia?
Yeah, my handwriting sucks.
You could have been a doctor.
I could have. Not that smart. Hi, my name is Gilbert Garcia. I've been in telecommunications for almost 18 years. I can't attest to what goes on at Taberta, but I can tell you I have worked for the city and for the county. I've always been treated with respect and professionalism. I have never experienced any problems from the city that are being, I guess, said. But I can tell you that everybody behind me here and on this side are fully capable individuals no matter what route we go. These are trained professionals, and I think no matter what, we'll get a quality of service that we owe our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Elaine Blythe?
Hello, my name is Elaine Blythe, and I'm here as a volunteer 4-H leader on behalf of Otero County. My significant other and I typically lead the horse events in 4-H and practices and so forth, so I'm here in that context as someone who supports 4-H in the extension program. So first, I would like to say I think there always needs to be adequate parking for the county fair. That week in September is an incredibly busy event. It draws a lot of thousands of people from the county, particularly Alamogordo in particular. We have 4-H attendees, we have parents, we have grandparents, we have youth, we have vendors who need to come in, rodeo contractors, the youth themselves and their parents are coming in with pickups and trailers. There has to be adequate parking in order to support the youth in their 4-H projects. And I think anything that would reduce the parking availability in that lot would be detrimental, not only to the county fair, but the youth in particular. I think, in my opinion, over the years of attending the fair, particularly Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that parking lot is absolutely jam-packed with attendees, and people are starting to park on side streets, across the street at the mall. And in my opinion, I think the city has an obligation to provide safe and adequate parking to an event to which the entire community and county participates. When they start parking on side streets and crossing White Sands, I think that's incredibly dangerous and puts the city in particular at perhaps some liability if you do not provide safe and adequate parking. I would also say, in the context of someone who's been trained for federal disaster response in a previous life, probably 15, 20 years ago, and just as recently as a year ago, that parking lot needed to serve as an emergency operations center for the fires that were in Ruidoso. Incident command sit up there. They had trucks, they had tents, they had personnel. There must be adequate parking when we have emergency needs to support a fire in our community or up at Ruidoso. So I would speak loudly and forcefully against anything that would result in decreasing the parking of that lot on Fairgrounds in White Sands. Thank you.
Okay. Sid Gordon.
Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity. I can elaborate on what the previous spokesperson just said. The big thing we need to consider in this parking lot situation is the logistic nightmare it's going to cause. Whatever type of business were to go in, if that property were to sell, they themselves will be at a major disadvantage when we have large events at the fair. And I think we really need to consider this and make it the best decision for the whole community. Granted, we don't have something at the fairgrounds every single week. But when we do have it, the necessity for that capacity and that space is foremost. And I would really hope that they consider that heavily before they make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Carroll.
My name is Andrew Carroll. Lived here all my life. My grandfather, dad, everybody. We've all been down there at the fairgrounds. And really what I want to reiterate, y'all have all heard this before, is that it is the Otero County main primary evacuation site. So we need that in those times of disaster or emergency. We've also have an MOU with the Alamogordo High School where it's their evacuation site. They require a secure facility that has bathrooms and water and places to get people, plus the parking so we can get them in and their parents can come in and let them go in an orderly manner. I've been contacted by Cloudcroft High School for the same reason, MOU with them for the evacuation site. We've heard different talk about using Griggs Field. It's not big enough. Plus the inherent problems with busing people up and down through there. It's the largest event in Otero County every year for I don't know how long now. And we need that much parking space just for that event alone. It's a free event. It's, like I said, it's the largest event in Otero County. Alamogordo people as well as county people come to that fair, and if we don't have that parking, you're effectively shutting down that fair. I mean, there's not much we can do if we don't have a place for people to park. You've heard this all before, but I encourage you to really think about it. Without that parking area, I mean, I've already said it once, but you're effectively probably shutting down the Otero County Fair. Thank you.
All right, and Kyle, whose name I can never get right, no, I need you to say it. Miesbauer, because I'm going to say Miesbauer, and I know it's not like I don't know you.
That's good enough. Good evening, my name is Kyle Miesbauer, and I'm here to speak in defense of former and current Taberta employees who are too afraid to come forward. I find it strange that county board members have heavily covered for one man mired in controversy. I find it strange that despite the overwhelming testimony and evidence provided by selfless public servants, the county is willing to dissolve a multi-million-dollar agency to defend a controversial director. I find it strange that the county commission doesn't know the full extent of what's going on. I find it strange that when an employee brought overwhelming evidence of malfeasance to the county HR director, they were told it would not be investigated unless others came forward to corroborate their story and that they should just transfer. From the outside looking in, this scenario appears incredibly suspicious. Is it willful ignorance on behalf of the county? Is it gross ineptitude amongst county leadership? Is it willful indifference to the suffering of those trapped in a hostile work environment? Is it a hidden agenda at play? To the uninformed, these questions might appear absurd. But any truly objective observer who looked at the facts would recognize them as not only valid, but necessary questions. The current and former employees of Taberta deserve better. Our public safety professionals deserve better. The citizens of Otero County and the city of Alamogordo deserve better. Please, Otero County, be better.
Okay, that concludes public comment. We're going to move into our work session. Item 1, Tularosa Basin Regional Dispatch Authority.
Does anybody want to make a comment? I'll just make a comment. We wanted to have this meeting tonight to kind of clear the air. The city's already turned in their letter that they wanted to move away from Taberta effective in March of 2026. So this meeting was mainly just to kind of let people that wanted to come and speak. So as of March of 2026, Alamogordo will no longer be a joint partner with the Tularosa Basin Regional Dispatch Authority. So I don't know if anybody else wanted to have anything to say or any comments.
I actually want to make a couple of comments. I do believe that this is a dead issue. However, I'm listening to the dispatchers tonight. I've listened to them in the past, and I find it incredibly interesting that every one of them seem to know about every personnel issue at Taberta. I thought that stuff was confidential. I thought that personnel records were confidential. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought they were confidential, and I find it interesting that the dispatchers all know why everybody left the dispatch center. And they all know that they were just disgruntled employees, or they didn't want to conform, or they got in trouble for this, or they got in trouble for that. And to me, that's very concerning. And we are part of Taberta until March of 2026. And I'm just going to say publicly that I have some real concerns about personnel issues being discussed in public meetings, because now it's on the record. So, and if I were any one of you dispatchers, I would be concerned about that, because if it can happen to previous dispatchers, it can happen to you. And that's concerning to me. So that's all I have to say about Taberta. I do agree with Chairman Marquardt. We're done. We've turned in our letter, and there's really nothing else to discuss. That's just my opinion. I'm just one of 7. Anybody else?
Amy Barilla. I will say that initially when I called this meeting, it was to be transparent on both sides, so that some of us that aren't privy to what happens in the board meetings or happens, that it would all kind of come out to the open for every single one of us here and for you. Now that, and that was in the efforts of trying to keep it together. Now we're past that, so now it's just about being transparent. But I also want to make sure that when I was in the process of trying to get this joint meeting together, I did meet with Chief Kunihiro, who was one of the only ones that would meet with me. Thank you very much for that. And did learn some things that I thought would be repairable on both sides. And that being said, too, the rumors, everybody has the rumors going around. During dispatcher week, everybody said, the Alamogordo Police Department, they're not going to support dispatcher week. So I actually purposely ran the truck that week so I could speak with the officers firsthand. And not one APD officer had that view. And that was from the top down. They completely supported our dispatchers. And one of them even made the comment, "Are you kidding me? They're the ones that keep us alive." You know, so I think this whole police department against police department is a misunderstanding and misconception. I think we are a good team and will be in the future again after we get over this. But the purpose is for transparency, because we are wasting a lot of taxpayer dollars with this. And so I wanted to make sure that comes out in the open.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. You know, I've lived in Alamogordo since 1958. It seemed like growing up through the construction industry that I was in, Alamogordo was always 10 to 15 years behind any other location in the state. You can go to Las Cruces. We're so far behind them over there, and they're only 70 miles away. You know, we brought in a new director for the dispatch center. He came from Florida at first. I wasn't real keen on him, I'll be truth. After I started watching him and started seeing his ability, he's a very smart, educated man. He came from probably a business that you had rules you went by, you followed, and that's one of the problems that I see around Alamogordo is everybody just kind of does what they want to. So they fight the system. It's a system that, they want to come in and you take old timers. I'm the worst. Computers, I wish I could throw them out the window and just stay on my pad right here. But it's a thing of the future. It's coming. So I have to give my hat off to the dispatch director out there that he has done a fabulous job. If he hadn't done a good job, they wouldn't be asking him to go all over the state and work in their dispatch centers, help fix problems, help solve things, and show them things. I personally went through an episode about a month, maybe a month and a half ago. I had to call the dispatch, call 911, my wife's aunt. We went through, they were very professional. They asked every question on what they should ask on the situation. They were spot on there within 4 or 5 minutes, and they knew exactly what to do and how to handle it. So, like I say, I'm taking my hat off to every one of the dispatchers and the dispatch director. Our center is the state of the art, and we should be proud of it, not trying to break it down and destroy it. That's all I got.
Anybody else? Okay. We'll move on to item 2, property and parking lots at the fairgrounds. You want to start? Dr. Hernandez?
We brought this to commission in executive session.
I can't hear you. Can they turn that up a little? Is that?
Hello?
Okay, there you go.
Hello? Okay. So in executive session, we have brought this topic up in the city commission meeting, and per the direction from the city commission, you wanted to have a joint meeting to discuss possibilities of the fairgrounds. And so there's 2 possibilities that were brought to the city commission. One of them was to sell the front part of the parking lot and give the rest of it to the county. And then the second one, because there's concern that,
We're trying.
Hello? Ooh.
There.
Sorry. Okay, so I'll start over. We went into executive session to discuss the selling of the fairgrounds parking lot. Per the direction from the commission, they asked us to set up a joint meeting with the county commission to discuss options of the fairgrounds. In executive session, we had 2 options presented to the to the city commission. One was to sell the front part of the city parking lot and give the back end to the county, and then perhaps work with the mall or Griggs and Z-Tran to possibly do parking during the fair and burning of the bulls. The other option was to kind of reimagine the fair and move it to a location that's bigger so we can host bigger things. The city has some property, more specifically the landfill off of the bypass, that the city, as a government to government, we can offer that and to help develop that so that the county could also sell their piece of the fairgrounds, help put some, to develop the landfill. The city could do some of our piece of developing the landfill and kind of reimagine the fair as a bigger place. Our landfill is about 150 acres, whereas the current location, I think, is about 31 acres. I could be wrong on how much the current one is, but those were the options presented. And then so because we couldn't talk about it, this is the opportunity to discuss what direction we want to go.
Well, I'm relieved to know that you're not wanting to sell the whole parking lot, but even selling the front part of the parking lot's going to cause some problems, because, I mean, we already don't have enough parking out there. So, is that better? I was just saying that I'm relieved to know that they're not wanting to sell the entire parking lot, but even selling part of it is going to cause some issues because we already lack in parking. I think maybe if we could get together, because this rumor goes around all the time. It seems like every other year we hear that, you know, the city's going to sell the parking lot, and we all get worried about it. So maybe we need to work with the city on like an actual agreement that is writing that this isn't going to happen, that we're not going to sell the parking lot. I know the hospital has some property behind where the rides are now, and I've talked to them about maybe working something out to where we could get that, but then we're going to be, I don't even know how much it's going to cost to pave something like that. So, I mean, it would be a huge, huge cost to the county to do that, even if we had the land donated, which I don't know. We don't have a deal or anything like that. But it's just an idea. So I am relieved that you're not selling the entire parking lot. So are you thinking about selling the first part or the first half? Is that what I understood?
So we get approached regularly. That's why the rumors start. It's because we do get approached regularly, especially now that we are upgrading the intersection of Fairgrounds to a four-way stop. And that's kind of like phase one of connecting to the bypass. So this is why the conversation has come up again. So pretty much just the front act. No one that I've spoken to is interested in the entire parking lot. They just want the front access part, the front piece probably, I can't remember exactly how in, but just kind of where Peppers is, make a straight line, which would leave a big piece for to give to the county as the rest of the parking lot. So the reason it comes up is because we are asked often if we're willing to sell it and develop that side. Because the north side of town, I don't think there's any doubt that the north side of town is developing. So that's why it comes up.
Because to build anything out there on that landfill, we already know what a mess that is on the highway out there. And I think that the cost to fill that in and make that a usable property would be extremely expensive. And I know that I've got a commissioner that over in Roosevelt County, they're in the process of doing steps to upgrade their fairgrounds, and they're up to about $28 million right now. And they didn't even rebuild it, they're just redoing it. So it's a major cost. So I'm hoping we can get something worked out where we don't lose our parking lot because that's devastating to the kids in the area. We've got to keep our fair active. It's a huge historical event that we have every year in Otero County. It's the largest event that we have in Otero County and Alamogordo, so we want to fight to keep that. So we want to work with the city, whatever we can do to keep that parking lot. It's very important. And the idea of parking at the mall scares me with people crossing White Sands Boulevard at night. I just don't think that's a safe alternative for parking. I know people do park there, but I would not want that to be encouraged on our part because then I feel like we're almost liable if we tell them to park over there.
And also, do you realize that parking lot is a designated emergency command center post too? So I don't know if any of you here went by when the Ruidoso fire was going on last year, when all the firefighters, all the command centers were coming. That parking lot was totally full. It was from the schools, had school buses out there gathering clothes, from equipment coming in, the whole 9 yards. You always wish you never have to use it for that, but it did get used, and you cut, you say you don't know how much they're going to take off of it. I've heard up to 250 feet. Where you take 250 feet, that's a lot of that parking lot. And then you get into the accesses to be able to get into the parking lot or out of the parking lot when there is a fair. It's a bad deal all the way around. It's another deal, they do the CDL testing out there. I would probably bet that the city of Alamogordo uses that when they get tested out there also. I don't know that for a fact, but all the community things that go on at that fairgrounds it's just unreal. I've got a letter right here from the fairgrounds on the letter of support for the fair coming up. They had almost 60,000 people go through them gates last year. Where do you think 60,000 people is going to park? So you get the older people that try to come. Now you're starting to park them a half a mile down the road. How are they going to get there? This whole deal is a bad deal. I understand for the city it's great, money coming in, but there's property right down the road just like this that they could use too. It's all frontage property. Why right there? I'm not finished.
I just want to say, it's not me, it's you're not convincing me, you have to talk to them. It's not, I bring this to the commission, and it's the commission's decision.
Yes,
So-
ma'am. You started talking it, so I'm just looking at you. I'll look at the people, it doesn't matter to me. But what the kids, the 4-H kids that raise these animals and stuff that come in, and you're gonna shut this parking lot down, the amount of people that can come in there, do you have any idea how much money, I'm gonna quit looking at you. You realize how much money that the fair brings in to the businesses and from the business to the fairgrounds. It's unreal. I can't believe that the city would even consider trying to put a damper on another recreational facility in Alamogordo. I understand that, that somebody wanting to offer you money on it. I mean, Alamogordo is a business. You got to run it like a business. The county's a business. I want to think of it and run it like a business, but you've got to think of all the people that's going to be affected by this, And like I say, I was told, well, the city, maybe Alamogordo can donate some property. Well, that's fine, and that's great for the Alamogordo. But who's going to come up with the 25 to 30 million to rebuild that facility? The county doesn't have that kind of money. Does the city have that kind of money to jump out there and want to spend to replace that facility? No. We're all struggling. So I don't understand what this is. I can't believe that they would even consider thinking about this. And that's all I'm going to say.
So just to make it clear, I have an obligation when I get these offers to bring to the city commission, and so I'm not pushing it here or there. They come to me, I bring it to the commission makes a decision, just so we're clear.
She would not be doing her job if she did not come to us and at least tell us about it. That's her job. You would want that too if somebody came to you and offered you money for something. You would want your county manager to come to you and at least present the options.
And you're exactly right, and I wouldn't expect anything less from my county manager. If she didn't, we would have words to talk about.
Okay.
But like I say, it's been going on for years, and we kind of try to get it smoothed out, and then we got a fresh batch of people come in, and then it wants to get started again. I just can't believe, and I'm not throwing...
I think you're misunderstanding this whole thing. The county is the one that called...
Can I finish talking before you interrupt me? Please. Give me some courtesy.
I think you're misunderstanding the whole thing. The county is the one that called this meeting.
Can I call a point of order,
We
please?
were not talking, we were not even, this was not an issue to us
I
anymore.
call a
We were
point of
done
order,
with this
please?
issue, so I'm not sure where any of this came from.
Point of order, please.
Go ahead. Okay. All right. Anybody else?
How does everybody like the bypass that goes on top of that landfill? Does everybody appreciate that? Because that's going to be what the future fair proposal is. And I just want to expand it just a little bit more based on emails and what is going on between the city and the county. It feels like the whole Taberta situation is kind of was held over our head in limbo of the decision for the fair. the Fairgrounds parking lot. And so we got an email here that says, although I feel extremely uncomfortable sending this email without the city commission knowing it. I mean, it's inappropriate, and I do feel that there are city commissioners and county commissioners that don't know the extent of every conversation that's happened. And again, that's why we call this meeting. But there's a lot of decisions being made that are not going through the city commission. And I hope that this meeting changes the direction and involves the city commission in more of these decisions. I even have the letter of termination here from the city of Alamogordo, from the Tiburta. Not one city commissioner's autograph is on here. So I don't know what this is, who's running the city, but the public needs to know what's going on.
I'm sorry, was that the resignation?
The termination of Tiburta?
Yeah, the city commission voted on that, so we actually all knew about it.
Right. And I know that you voted on it, but I don't think they were aware of this letter.
And we were actually, I believe a letter went out that said, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought there was something that went out that said the letter was going out or something. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. We voted on it, so we knew about it.
So, Madam Mayor, I sent that email that I sent to, and I believe I let you all know in a weekly meeting that I sent them an email. I sent that although I feel extremely uncomfortable sending this email, Sheila's post put me in a difficult position. So I was trying to clear the air with RB and the county manager to say, like, this is not our intention to sell the parking lot. Before I even went to the commission, I think what's happening that night or the night after, I wanted to let them know that these were the options I was giving to the commission. Exactly what I said tonight. So I did send that email directly to the county attorney and the county manager the day before or the day of the commission meeting, which I was taking into executive session because I was trying to clear the air. However, I did let you guys know in either a weekly report or in executive session, I can't remember. So that was me sending that email.
May I ask how the city commissioners feel on this? I haven't heard one of them speak. I would like to have their opinion on what's fixing to go down right here.
As far as the parking lot goes, I think in the short term, we need to keep it. I mean, the next couple of years, but I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we need to sit down with a plan because the fairgrounds is outgrown and it's inevitable. This has been talked about. I've been on the commission since 2009. I think we've talked about this 6 or 7 different times, and we keep, and my opinion is we can't do that to the county. It is a huge event, but I think for the time being we need to leave it the way it is. But we do have a discussion of where we're going to go in the next 5 to 10 years, and put a plan in place to how we're going to do it, how we're going to pay for it, where it might be, or if we don't even want to go that direction, just leave it where it's at. But but for the next 2 or 3 years, I think it needs to stay where it's at. So
I agree with that.
That's kind of what I'm running along with Josh on that deal. I think when we got out of our meeting, none of us were like, oh yeah, we're going to sell this right now, let's do it. But we do need to have something to look at in the future. But as of right now, I think we all kind of feel the same with where it stands.
if it would make you guys feel better, we could put an item on the agenda and basically a resolution or whatever y'all want to do, stating that we will not sell the parking lot for X amount of years. But I really feel the conversation needs to be had with the Fair Board, the County Commission, City Commission. We all need to be involved in it, since it does have a huge impact. I mean, Commissioner Matherly here mentioned the CDL training. I noticed they've been doing that the last couple of weeks out there, and it's. But I think there's 16 acres out there, 30 acres of existing. I don't remember. I think our parking lot's like 7. I think.
Total, it's 31. Between the county and the city property, it's about 31 acres.
31 total. it's prime real estate right in the center of town, and when it was originally developed, you know, I don't know, in the 40s, 50s, you know, it was an airfield, I think, originally. You know, it was on the edge of town, and it was convenient, and it's worked great. And I mean, I've got a lot of memories there. I've been here my whole life, been to that fair for almost every single year. But logically thinking, you know, it's inevitable that it in the future may have to move. But in the short term, it needs to stay where it's at because it's just not feasible to move it at this time.
So one of the big deals, if we can have a meeting like that or get an agreement, it'll be up to the county to try to figure out some way on a funding deal, which everybody loves when you start talking about trying to fund something that's increasing something somewhere. But it's not something that we could just come up with next year and just come up with $30 million and throw out here. And people just doesn't realize how much that facility would cost to replace. The property, I understand the city has a lot. That would be great if they donated. It would be very gracious, but it's just coming up with it to build. And you couldn't build that in like a year. It'd take a couple years to get that whole facility designed and built. Every year it goes, it's just going to cost more and more. But the county would have to figure out a way to be able to get the funding to get that done. That's the main thing right there. I think it would be a major setback in our youth development that has so much to do out there through the 4-H's, the livestock show, all the stuff that they do. It would be a big setback. We have a very, very good program out there right now. I'm very proud of it. So this is something that just needs to be thought out in great detail before something gets jumped in and something gets done with it.
So one of the things I wanted to say real quick was that the landfill that we proposed was just one option. The city owns lots of land in lots of different areas within, I guess, how do you want to say that, the perimeter around the city. So there are other options. There are also many, many grants out there. I'm assuming you guys have a grant coordinator. So there's many grants that you can get. And I think you would probably be surprised if you had the current fairgrounds property appraised. You're part of it. I think you'd be very surprised at the value on that because we were surprised at our, what did you say it was, 7?
Our parking lot is 1.2 million, appraised at 1.2 million.
And how many acres is that?
I think it was 3.3, a little over 3 acres.
So 3.3 acres was appraised for 1.2 million. That leaves 26, 27, 28 acres. So I think you would be very surprised at the appraisal on that. And again, there are grants out there specifically for things like this. And so I do think that you need to at least consider our offer. Maybe not, like you said, right away, but I do think you need to consider it because to me, it just seems like it makes more sense to, number one, expand the fairgrounds, and number two, put it in an area that, you know, Commissioner Matherly said himself, 60,000 people. Even with our parking lot, even with an extra 3 acres, 60,000 people, that's a lot of people within the city limits right there in that area. We are getting ready to, well, we're not, but I know that White Sands Construction is building across the street. There's going to be all those pad sites. That's just going to make it that much more congested. So realistically speaking, it doesn't make a lot of sense to keep the fairgrounds there long term. It makes more sense to put it in an area where, you know, the area that we were talking about was 100 and, what did you say, how many acres?
150.
150 acres. You have 31 acres right now, and we're talking about providing 150 acres. If you can find some grants, if you can find some funding, then I think that it is worth considering, and it will certainly relieve some of that congestion during those times. And you can do all of those things that you mentioned. It can be a meeting site, it can have CDL training, it can have, what else goes on there? Burning of the bill, whatever it is that goes on out there, you can do all of those things and expand, and maybe even do more, maybe even have a bigger and better fair. So those are just options worth considering. And I'm sure that the city would be happy to, if we find some grants or something, maybe send them your way, or I'm sure that we could work together on that. But I do think the funding is out there. I just think that you need to be diligent and seek it out. And will it happen this year or next year? Maybe not. But if you find the right kind of funding, we could have a pretty spectacular fair and relieve some of that congestion. So that's just a thought.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Okay, so just so we're clear and everybody can go home and sleep tonight, we're understanding the city's not selling the parking lot at the fair. I think to make everybody feel better, if we could maybe get something in writing that says until the fairgrounds is moved to another location, we're safe in saying that we've got that parking lot. Because it's not going to happen within a year or two, I doubt. Because even to come up with that kind of funding is going to take a while.
Yeah.
So if we could do, just so that these rumors don't start every year, because
Well-
they come around pretty often.
Right, and just so we're clear, we as a city already talked about this. I'm not sure why people keep thinking we're ready to sell the parking lot. I'm not sure where that's coming from.
That's why I want something clarified, maybe
I
in writing,
understand
so
that.
that we can
And
just
we've
say
had that.
it's
We've
not
had
going to have that.
before. Yeah, we've
So-
had that before. We've had those things in writing, and I'm sure maybe we would have to talk about it as a commission, but we could come up with a time limit or something before we bring it back again. But I do agree with Commissioner Reardon. I believe that the fair has outgrown their current location, and I think that in the best interest of the fair and safety and all those other things, I think that is something that perhaps should be a serious goal should be made to consider that. And again, the city will provide the property. So we will do our part. We will provide the property. So.
And I agree with Commissioner Reardon too on the growing. It is a nightmare to get out on White Sands. It would be great on the outskirts of town, on the old landfill. I would not agree to that anywhere because it would end up just like that relief route out there. Other places, that's all something that could be discussed later on location, but we have to have time to be able to find some funding first. And our grant writer is digging every day, 25, 30 million. We're having a hard time trying to get grants for 1 or 2 million. So I can just imagine what it's going to be like for 30 million.
I would definitely have the property at least appraised, because I really do think you'd be surprised at how much the current property is worth.
The county side of it, they're gonna have to come up with the funds to build the facility first, and then the sale of the property could pay off some of the initial investment. But I don't know if we wanna do it as a resolution or as just a statement or something along those lines. But just to save for grace with the county, say, hey, for 2 years that we will not sell it or something along those lines. And then we also ought to look at public-private partnerships as far as moving it. There's a lot of different options out there where we can try to get the cost down to do it. But, I'm with the county on this. We can't sell that parking lot until we have a plan in place and we get the new facility built, or however you guys get it built, before that parking lot.
I think we all agree on that. We've already talked about this, and I think that we all agree on that. All 7 commissioners have talked about it at length, and I think all 7 of us agreed that we just can't sell the parking lot. That's not the right thing to do.
The county's nervous, I think, because come November, we're having an election and there's 4 seats up. And it's that way every time, every 2 years, there's a couple different seats up, you get different lines there sometimes. eventually one of the commissions is going to agree to sell it. So I for one think we should put something on our agenda so that the commission can put it in writing and make it official, that let these guys sleep at night in the fair board, that they're not going to worry about us ripping the parking lot out from under them. So.
We would appreciate that, and I think 2 years is not realistic for us because we're in the middle of trying to build a courthouse, and that's about to rip our lips off. So we got to have a little grace on that.
Can I make a suggestion, like a design within 5 years? If I could make a suggestion, if we could do a resolution, as Commissioner Reardon said, but have a time limit, at least try and get a design, because design isn't that expensive. I mean, it's expensive, but I mean, within 5 years, is that reasonable for the county? I mean, I don't know.
How does the city feel about contributing whatever money you get from selling your share of the parking lot to the new fairgrounds as a sign of goodwill?
Yeah, well, I would put that money back into economic development, but I think that there are certain things that we could do to help prepare the land, and, excuse me, my voice, and I mean, I've always said that the city can do certain things to help with the development of a new fairgrounds.
I was actually going to suggest the same thing, but I think, looking at the budget and what the county has going on right now with the judicial complex, building the sheriff's extension office in Chaparral, I mean, it's just not feasible even in 5 years. And I would like to see that this issue be mute. I think that it should be in writing that it would be 10 years, which your property would only appreciate during that time. And, give it time to, if we want to consider moving the fair or not. And I think 10 years is reasonable. And I also agree that if you decide to sell the parking lot, that $1.2 million should go in the trust and to moving the fairgrounds, and that being towards the building.
The city's 1.2 million?
Yes. If they're
no, I
proposing
disagree with
to move and they're going to sell this parking lot for $1.2 million, that it goes into a trust for holding for the purpose of rebuilding the fairgrounds.
I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. We're offering a 150-acre piece of property. I think that should be the city's contribution. So I completely disagree with that. These are taxpayer dollars. This is not our personal account. This is taxpayer dollars. And I can't imagine the city taxpayers thinking that that's okay. But
It's for them as well. Our county residents, our city residents. Most of that could be discussed at a later time. Here tonight, I think we're just trying to get to a general consensus of, hey, the parking lot's not going to be sold. Put something in writing so that the county doesn't feel threatened that we're going to sell it out from under them. And I think that's the purpose here, essentially tonight. We put together something for our next, not tomorrow night, but our next agenda.
Yes, sir.
okay. Anything else? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A motion from Mayor Pro Tem McDonald. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
A second from Chairman Marquardt. All those in favor, aye.
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 All those opposed, we are adjourned.